Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Advanced Home Upgrade Q&A for the new incentive structure. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. I'm Emily Byerly-O'Brien, Team Associate for PG&E Programs. With me today, I have Sarah Hvac, Manager of Contract Services, Torsten Glidden, Senior Manager of Policy and Technical Innovation, and Sandy Fischler, Senior Manager of Home Upgrade. Before we get started, we're going to go over some of the logistics of this program. On the GoToMeeting app, you have the ability to collapse and expand your side panel, enter full screen mode, and raise and lower your hand with the raise hand icon. Attendees can also ask questions through the question panel, so go ahead and type in any questions that come to mind. Press submit, and your question will be added into the queue. When we get to your question, we'll go ahead and unmute you so you can give us any further discussion on your question or clarification if required. If the time does run out and we're unable to answer any questions remaining, we'll send out a PDF with all the questions and answers on the 15th. If you're having issues with your audio and if you're using it through your computer, go ahead and call in through a phone and you'll get better audio reception. If you're still having issues, you can call our training line, which is there. And finally, this presentation is being recorded, so we will have a video of this session available by February 15th on our Home Upgrade website. So we're going to go ahead and get started and pass the floor over to Sarah, who will review the measures.
Great. Thank you, Emily. Just wanted to say thank you again for taking the time out of your day to review these, the new incentive structure, and main point of this webinar is for you to ask as many questions as you'd like at the end after I just read through and review the measures and the points to note for the incentive changes. So I'll do that first, and then I will review each section of the measures in three parts: the shell measures, HVAC measures, and other measures, and as my other colleagues like to call those, the wildcard measures, and then we'll have time at the end for Q&A. Okay, and then main points to note of change here. So the incentives differ based on CEC climate zones. And so the incentive amounts, they are set, they're relative to the average post-install metered savings in that particular climate zone. And customers, they will be able to look up their own climate zone on the PG&E website. That could be used as a tool to help them understand this incentive structure. All measures have distinct incentive amounts, so they're set. Set totals and modeling. So the incentives are no longer based on modeling. Modeling is will not be a requirement. That's not to say we are discouraging the use of modeling if you already have it as a part of your business model to get customers to understand sort of the whole house approach. And the pre-install will be placed with a funds reservation. So you'll be able to see within the portal how many incentives you're reserving for your customer after you select the measures. And a new measure is one of the new measures that's being offered in this incentive structure is high performance HVAC install, or HPHI. That's more contractor facing. And then how it will be presented to the customer is it's called HVAC Ultimate Comfort. And so this measure has two incentives. Incentive that would go directly to you, the contractor, and an incentive that would go to the customer. And so the contractor-facing incentive is $1,200, and for the customer, $500 or $1,000, depending on their climate zone. And of course, CAS testing, like always, it's still required for pre and post-install work. And then just really quick review, customer eligibility based on their fuel type. So customers qualify for measures depending on which PG&E fuel they have. So if they're an all-electric home, only electric fuel measures apply. If they only have PG&E gas, they would only qualify for the gas measures. And then in the particular situation, if they have PG&E electric and SoCal gas, both of those do qualify for PG&E incentives. So SoCal gas does qualify there. Okay, so looking at first at the shell measures, and just as a recap, so the customer, you do have to choose at least 4 measures to qualify, 2 of which must be shell measures and 1 must be an HVAC measure. So you must help the customer choose at least 2 of these measures. So first, wall insulation, the minimum requirement of 2x4 framing is 13 R value. And then for 2x6 framing, minimum of 19. Installed for CEC QII standards, minimum of 50% total wall area. For shell attic insulation measure, must be at least R44 or better. And and you'll see the climate zone specific qualifications there. And then it must be at least, 100% of accessible attic area and a minimum, at least 50% of the total attic area must be claimed there. And then for the floor insulation measure, minimum of 19 R value. And then same as above, 100% of accessible floor area or minimum of 50% total floor area. Of course, there may be special circumstances depending on the home's makeup. So just remember to take as many pictures as possible if you have any questions on the total area percentage. And we have the whole building envelope air sealing and ventilation measure, at least 15% building leakage reduction, or at least 30% building leakage reduction. And 800 square foot conditioned area is the requirement. Okay, so now we're going into the HVAC measures. HVAC, new ducts and insulation, so replacement only for this incentive structure. So R8 is a requirement for all climate zones with 5% leakage or less. And existing ducts must be 10% leakage or greater to be eligible for the upgrade. And must be 100% of accessible ducts. And you can claim up to 2 systems per dwelling unit if follows these qualifications. And then HVAC cooling, so split system AC, minimum of 15 SEER or 12.5 year. And for package systems, 15 SEER and 12.0 year or better. And for heating, HVAC heating, sealed gas furnace, 92% ASUE or better, and heat pumps, 9.0 HSPF or better. So same thing applies here, up to 2 HVAC systems could be claimed per dwelling unit. And then we have, so as previously mentioned, the HVAC ultimate comfort measure, or contractor-facing HPHI. So for this particular measure, you do have to be an approved contractor to offer this to your customers. And for the installation, you must meet the 7 residential HVAC system commissioning specifications, including delivered sensible year at 85% or better. And for this measure, you can only claim it once, 1 system per dwelling unit. And just to review that particular measure in more detail, so training, if you haven't explored this already, we highly recommend to check out this page on the homeupgrade.org website under the Grow Your Business tab, High Performance HVAC Installation. So to take this training, it is partially subsidized at 50% of confirmed training costs up to $4,000. So please reach out to your account representative if you have not checked out this page or you need to explore setting up this training. Okay, so now we are to the other measures, or as my other colleague says, the wildcard measures. So starting from the top, gas storage water heater, 0.7 UEF or better. Condensing gas storage water heater, 0.90 UEF field combustion. And electric storage water heater can also be offered at 2.0 UEF or better. So 2 systems can be claimed for those measures. And then below that is the pool pump measure. So for this measure, like the program previously, it does have to be installed by a certified aquatic installer. And only 1 pool pump can be claimed per project site. And a new measure we're offering now is the smart thermostat. So smart thermostat must be Energy Star certified, and it must be Wi-Fi enabled and confirmed via test login. So that measure could be claimed by taking a picture of the smart thermostat screen where it shows it will be connected to Wi-Fi. That's just a suggestion of how to claim that measure or how to show proof for that measure. And you can claim up to 2 smart thermostats with the corresponding HVAC system. And then you can claim lighting, so LED, retrofit, fixtures, and up to 25 per dwelling unit. And then at the bottom, you can review, depending on the climate zone, the maximum total of incentives that can be claimed for that project. There is a maximum. All right, so now we would love to open the floor to you all to start. We'll give it a couple minutes, and then I think my colleague Emily, you can unmute them to ask their question, and we could start a dialogue if anyone has questions on this.
All right, for starters, we have North back today asking about floor insulation, and it looks like you might be able to speak, so I'm going to unmute you real quick. Right now you're self-muted. Oh, there you are.
Hi.
Go ahead and elaborate for us.
I found my voice today, finally. couldn't find it yesterday. I had 2 quick questions. One, I was just wondering for floor insulation whether a homeowner could insulate the crawl space walls, whether that would be a covered measure. That's my first question.
I think we'd be happy to see them insulate the crawl space walls, but it's not specifically incentivized. What is incentivized is the main floor area, basically. So all the square footage of the floor area, so all the cavities underneath the floor.
Right. Okay. And then the more important question is, if you have a homeowner who's going to do attic insulation, floor insulation, and air sealing, but they have an old gas water heater and an old gas furnace, and they don't really want to replace that equipment with new gas appliances, and they want to do say like a heat pump or a heat pump water heater. Are they still going to be eligible for the incentives on the other measures, or because they're not upgrading their gas HVAC system to another gas HVAC system, does that disqualify them from the rebates entirely?
Unfortunately, if they didn't do one other measure, it would. We hate to see that scenario arise, but that's the way it's currently designed.
What would they have to do? What would they be required to do then to qualify?
Well, I think the way it's written right now, that they'd have to make the decision to upgrade. So
you mean they'd have to replace their gas equipment, one of their gas.
So they
Yeah, I
can
mean,
do the new ducts and insulation. So that counts as one HVAC measure, right? So if they do two, yeah. So if they do two shell, right? They do floor or they do air sealing, and then you replace the ducts and add insulation, and you do an additional, wild card measure, or like install a smart thermostat or something. I believe that would qualify them.
I think he already had 3 measures in his scenario, but yeah, that would. So at least they're delivering more of the unfortunately inefficient, heat source, but at least it's getting more of that heat to where it's going.
Okay, so ducts then would qualify as an HVAC measure.
But it's replacement. So I mean, at that point, you almost it doesn't make tons of sense not to do the equipment itself. Although I know that is an additional expense. So.
Well, I mean, could you do heat pump ducts?
Yeah, I mean the ducts themselves are a measure, and they're not tied specifically to the fuel. They're considered an HVAC measure.
Yeah. So I mean, a homeowner could do 3 normal measures and then pay for a heat pump out of pocket, no rebates, and then also get a rebate on the ducts.
I think in that scenario, they'd probably have to have existing AC though, because otherwise none of the efficiency being, contributing to the savings on, in terms of the duct upgrade would have anything to do with the PG&E supplied fuel.
Oh, so the ducts also cannot involve any fuel switching.
No, that's not the case. I mean, it's just if there wasn't an existing AC, there wouldn't be any savings associated with a PG&E supplied fuel. You see what I'm saying? So
I see what you're saying.
If it was a gas-only house, or sorry, a heating-only house, then we'd have an issue. If it already had existing AC, PG&E is supplying the electricity to that, so there are savings associated with that. I mean, ultimately, they're claiming the program is its goal is to claim savings for these upgrade measures. So while I mean, we'd love to see customers doing anything to make their homes more efficient in an objective sense, but in terms of the program being able to pay incentives on something, it has to be associated with something that the utility that's paying for it with the ratepayer dollars that are assigned to it are seeing savings on.
Right. Yeah, I understand. They only want to pay for projects where there's real realizable gains. So. Okay,
right. I mean, unfortunately, they couldn't claim savings at CPUC if there weren't, right, for that project. So.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. And the next question I have is, will you give us a list of which measures are gas and which ones are electric, keeping in mind that some are both, such as insulation, ducting, air sealing, and thermostats? And Sam's asking that one if we need to elaborate.
It was a question that came in on an email on behalf of Synergy throughout a thread. They were curious to saying that in some instances where they work with customers that are dual utility, one's a PG&E and one's something else, and that these rebates through this program are only customers that are PG&E customers.
Sorry, so what is Duffy's question again? Could you repeat it?
So the question thread came in originally asking about SMUD electric customers and PG&E gas customers, they like to see if there was a list that would be available of which incentives that they can claim that are a specific gas rebatable versus something that would be typically electric or not. I think that you might have been on this original thread that came from David Price, and it was just a late question that came in. We responded to some of his questions, being that all electric PG&E, all electric customers with no PG&E gas qualify for our electric fuel measures so long as they have no propane fuel. Our PG&E electric customers receiving electricity from PG&E qualify for all measures using electric fuel. And then his question that came in all the way at the end of all this is there a list that will be received that says which incentive is gas specific or electric specific? Let's see.
Well, I mean, ultimately, the equipment itself is, is fuel specific. The non-equipment measures would just need to have some valid PG&E supplied utility associated with it in order to be.
They can still claim the ducting, air sealant measure, insulation measure. I'm assuming that that's what he meant. He just said on the email, will you give us a list of what measures are gas and which ones are electric? I know some are both.
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to whether PG&E supplies a utility to something that's running through, for instance, the duct system, or if there's cooling in the house and PG&E supplying the electricity, then those measures are eligible because it's holding cooling in the house, right?
Yes.
Mitigate its escape and it's providing savings, and vice versa. So, a lot of measures are either or, but only the ones that say gas or electricity should be considered as only, right?
Got it. Yeah, no, I completely understand. I just felt it was important to get that on the record, and they want to come and view this webinar. It's a good resource point for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think if if that answers the question, then great. If they want a further clarification, then happy to do that.
Yeah, let's set up a call with them, Sam.
Sure.
Next question.
All right.
Any?
Our next question is going to be from Marianne. Does a smart thermostat count as the required HVAC measure in the case a customer already has an efficient furnace and duct sealed to less than 5% leakage? So I'll go ahead and unmute you in case you need any clarification.
No, I think in that case, really just requiring, it's more of like a guidance for fill and bad insulation, right? So if it's foam, then it's meeting the R value requirement or exceeding it, and there are no gaps in any of the cavities, then I think you're meeting the spirit of the measure.
Thank you.
Trajan, do you mind repeating that? It was a little soft.
Sure. So the question was if you're using foam instead of spray foam instead of fill insulation, or like in netting or in bad insulation, would you still have to install it to full joist thickness? And I think from my perspective, the answer is no, because you'd be using a lot of extra material, which could be helpful, but at a certain point there's diminishing returns. And so as long as you're meeting the R value based on the depth and rating of that specific foam material, and there are no gaps, any of the cavities, those joist bays, right, underneath the floor, then you're meeting the spirit of the measure. So once the R value is met or exceeded and there aren't any gaps anywhere, then you should be good. You wouldn't have to fill foam all the way down to the bottom of the joist necessarily, because it's already, at a certain, depending on that material, it's rated at, a higher R value per inch than, say, bad insulation would be. You would want to keep the documentation for it, so you can provide that for desktop review if needed, or for field QC if needed. But yeah, you'd be meeting the requirement without having to go to full depth. That's more of guidance for, as I said, for fill insulation or bad insulation.
Thank you. It looks like we're getting close to time, so go ahead, and if you have any other questions, please type them in and we'll answer any more we can. And if not, as I said earlier, we will be sending out PDFs with the questions and answers from all 5 days on the 15th, so the end of the week. Looks like we're not getting any more right now, so we will, oh, here we go. Are there no longer incentives for upgrading heating systems such as wall heaters or boilers?
Currently, no. It's the efficiencies of the wall heater wouldn't meet it. Boiler, however, theoretically would if it's if it meets the water heater, so heating hot water heater, meeting the requirements for those water heating devices, sure. So no on the wall heater, yes on the boiler if it meets the efficiency requirement. Ultimately, it's working in conjunction with the storage tank if it's a dedicated boiler. Right?
Sorry, Torsten, can you repeat that?
Yeah, I mean, if the heating source is a heating hot water heater, then it would meet the requirement. Oftentimes they're used, as both domestic and, radiant heat. That's, I think, the scenario that we're talking about here, or even a hydronic air handler.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up then. Thank you all for taking time out of your day to come and listen to the new incentive structure, ask your questions. If you do think of any further clarification you need, go ahead and email our team. You can email your contractor account rep or contractor engagement, or give us a call. You can find our information on our website, spelleditgreen.org. So thank you all for attending, and have a great day.
Yes, thank you.